Hello, my name is Emily, as you may or may not know, and today we are going to be talking about Yellowface. Yup. So, hey, maybe I should change the intro to Yellow. My name is Emily, as you may or may not know. Don't take me out back and shoot me for that one. Actually, it might be warranted. Now listen, hey, Hollywood has come a long way, right? I think that we've made a lot of progress in terms of showcasing Asian talent in the mainstream. From actors to directors to writers who are creating these beautiful, complex Asian-centered storylines, we have been in an age of growth when it comes to, Asian people pursuing the film industry and actually succeeding. But obviously we know that it was not always like this, right? Diversity was not always commonplace in this industry or in many other industries as well. To the point where some people, they even feel like it's a threat, right? Because it's been so contrary to the norm. I mean, some people, they think about, DEI and they feel like it's some sort of man-made disaster, like climate change, if they even believed in that to begin with. If you are not familiar with the practice of yellowface, in the Cambridge Dictionary it is defined as the practice of white actors changing their appearance with makeup in order to play East Asian characters in movies, plays, etc. So yeah, there was a point in time where many Hollywood actors were a part of the RCTA community. Many Hollywood actors were Koreaboos, in a sense of the word, to a whole other degree. This is from history.com. Yellowface dates to early forms of minstrelsy when ethnic white actors would darken their faces and use prosthetics and costumes to appear Asian. The term itself came from similar acts of blackface that were popular when white actors colored their skin to caricature black people and culture. In minstrelsy, that was a part of the performance, putting on a costume and everyone knew you were in a costume, and then using that yellowface performance to ridicule or villainize Asians in a way that was entertaining for its audience. So yeah, the world is your stage, and the stage is a ching-chong joke, essentially. One of the earliest performances of American Yellowface comes from the theatrical show An Orphan of China, performed in 1767 and based on a play by Voltaire. This early exposure of dramatized Asian culture would persist for centuries, particularly in film. Among the first appearances of Yellowface in film was a work by D.W. Griffith, best known for Birth of a Nation, a racially charged epic featuring characters in blackface that became so popular it reignited the Klan. Before that film, Griffith targeted Asians through Yellowface in his 1910 short, and this is a slur, so I'm just gonna say a word that rhymes with the slur, and if you are educated or even just racist enough, maybe you've thrown this word around a couple times, you're gonna know what I mean. So his 1910 short, The Clink at Golden Gulch, right? Yeah. So it's interesting, I mentioned this before in my video about, the euphemism treadmill, which at the time when I made that video, I didn't even know that there was a phrase dedicated to that phenomena. But like I mentioned in that video, it's interesting that for every derogatory term that we have towards minorities, at one point it was kind of just commonplace to say it. It's like people used to be saying these words often and casually, mind you. You wake up in the morning, walk outside, oh, good morning, redacted. Hello? The Clink at Golden Gulch. That's really, the writer's room must have been crazy back then. That's all I'm saying. All right, so let me get this straight. The film stars a Chinese fella, but the main actor's name is John McWhiteman. Yep. Perfect! All right. So here's a title pitch for you, okay? The Chinaman's Chance. All right. Give me the next one. All right, that was a softball. What about You're a Sap, Mr. But this fella is Chinese, right? Sure! I guess what's the difference? Alright, how about this gem that I brewed up? Clinks and chases. Now we're getting somewhere, but I just wish that there would clinks and chickens. Well, now that just doesn't sound like a real movie. Oh, trust me it is. Just look down. Oh, wow! Alright, well, listen, son. I just need something punchier. Alright, well, how about the clink? Perfect! Straight to the point. Clinks and chases. Clinks and chickens. The clink. But I wanted to take a closer look at this particular short film because it's one of the most early examples of Yellowface that's available to watch, right? So what I found interesting about it was that despite the shocking title and, you know, what we would deem today as very offensive and derogatory, the actual contents of the film are not really filled with any sort of vitriolic hate or active, overt disdain towards Chinese people like the title would suggest. So I'm gonna give you guys a rundown of the film, okay? There is a Chinese man, Charlie Lee, and he runs a laundromat at a miner's hamlet called Gold Gulch. His father leaves, says, 再见, right? Returns to China. He warns Charlie, do not cut off your ponytail. Keep that ponytail. This ponytail is more important to you than it is to Ariana Grande, right? Keep the ponytail, because if you try to return to China without it, you're gonna be an outcast. They're literally gonna hate you. So Charlie ends up staying at Gold Gulch and he gets attacked by a group of miners, right? As in the occupation, not the age. And a couple comes in to save him. Charlie is very grateful to this couple consisting of a woman and a cowboy. There is another man called the Dandy who tries to get in between the couple and, you know, pick up the woman, essentially. And Charlie is like, I have got to tell this hot goss to the cowboy. And then the Dandy and the cowboy end up having an altercation. And then there's a slight shift in the storyline where we find out that the mailman has been consistently held up, right? Whatever that means. But there is a $5,000 reward for whoever catches the person who has been holding up the mailman. Charlie Lee, he has an inkling. He feels suspicious of the Dandy. So he follows the Dandy and finds out that the Dandy has been putting on a disguise to rob and hold up the mailman. Seeing this injustice, he reluctantly cuts off his ponytail so he's able to capture the Dandy and essentially save the day, even if this means getting exiled from his own people for cutting his hair. Charlie Lee goes back to the town and he is celebrated, but he is soon hit with the realization of what he's just done and what this is going to mean for him and his family, right? So then he ends up giving his reward money to the white couple who, you know, showed him mercy and wasn't, you know, actively hate criming him, which that's kind of a low bar for friendship, but he leaves them a note that says, and by the way, this note is supposed to be in broken English, so I apologize if it sounds, well, racist. Missy Dean Alsame Bud Miller 2. Charlie Lee wishy much glad you two when all same one. Hope take money for Blydell Pleasant. Goodbye. Charlie Lee went away. And then after that, he watches the white couple with affection and then leaves and is supposedly never seen again. Now, obviously, this writer is extremely racist, right? I mean, he literally made Birth of a Nation. So safe to say that if your films are resonating with the triple K, I have a feeling you're not exactly invited to the cookout. I actually took a film class in college and we talked about this director because of how racist his films were, right? Especially Birth of a Nation. I mean, we were talking about blackface and harmful stereotypes against Black people in film and television and things like that. And let me just say, this film is about 2 to 3 hours, depending on which version it is, 2 to 3 hours of the most egregiously racist, terrible depictions of Black people I've ever seen. And it literally glorifies the Klan. And some even argue that it's the most racist movie ever made. And you know what's fucked up? Is that it was a hit. That film was the first to ever be played in the White House. Okay, it's considered to be the birth of, like, the golden age of Hollywood. So that just tells you a little bit about how we started as a nation. So yes, let me preface this by saying this director is literally racist as all hell, right? Clearly. I mean, for that time period, I suppose it's a bit, you know, fork found in kitchen. But I did want to talk about the interesting perspective that this director brought into his short film, specifically with a Chinese character. Because it was interesting to see the juxtaposition of the main character being portrayed as a good guy, right? While still maintaining the fact that he is almost cartoonishly inferior. I mean, you look at the way that this actor plays a Chinese character with sort of this shrunken in, docile stature, kind of waddling around in a way that contrasts with the people around him. Or when he gifts the white woman a bouquet of flowers, the cowboy doesn't see him as a threat at all, right? Because the very notion of an Asian man being able to woo or romance a white woman just seems like it doesn't make sense. The gesture of him giving her the flowers is sort of portrayed in the way of when a young child gives a grown woman a dandelion, right? Like, aw, that's cute. And just to emphasize this point even more, right? When the dandy comes into the picture, he's automatically seen as a threat. So much so that the cowboy goes off in a huff and they have a physical altercation after. So at this point, they're kind of beating you over the head with it. And this idea of Asian men being infantilized, emasculated, or undesirable, this was very pervasive for a long, long time. And so much of this is due to these harmful representations in media like this film, right? Obviously, these types of media, it is a mirror of society. But while these ideas may have been rammed into people's heads also through the government or propaganda, media and Hollywood has such an influence on how people think and how, people are perceived, minorities included. So before the popularization of K-pop and K-dramas and anime, for a while it was either Asian men, aww, or Asian men, ew. And thank you for sticking with us through that commercial break, and welcome back to The Matchmaker. Now, of course, we've already met our first two bachelors. Bachelor number one, Frankie Emerson. Now, ladies, he's a plumber, so you know that he's good with his hands. Right. And of course, we can't forget Bachelor number two, John McWhiteman. Now, he may be an actor, but he can't fake love. And then, of course, our final bachelor, bachelor number three, Alan Chang. Aww. Sorry, why did I get a different reaction? Oh, I'm sorry, bud. We were having some technical difficulties, but should be all fixed up now, and yes! Ew! What? Is it because I'm Asian? Oh, Alan, come on. Of course it is! I knew you people were smart! Alright, let's cut to commercial break. I didn't even get to talk about myself, though. Who cares? The use of Yellowface to depict Asian people using stereotypes set up the foundation for obstacles in Hollywood that we have only recently began to conquer. And pieces of media like this, whether it's related to Yellowface or Blackface or just any other racist depiction of minorities in general, right? It really is a reflection of society and how incredibly racist people were back then, right? Like I said, Birth of a Nation was a box office hit. And the box office didn't even exist back then. The fact that these racist perspectives or storylines told through art were so readily consumed, that goes to show how intrinsic the racism was. For this specific piece and other pieces that utilize Yellowface, it's not even that they're necessarily expressing a hatred towards Asian people, but rather showcasing the quote-unquote reality that we are inferior to them, which isn't stemmed from hatred, it's just fact. How can I put this? Not everyone hates squirrels, right? But most people think that their lives mean more than a squirrel's. Maybe that's not a good example. But anyways, in films like this one, and there are many films like this one, whether that be in a more overt racist way or a more subtle way, right? It says a lot about the time period where, in trying to make the minority the good guy, he still has to do it within the confines of his inferiority. And the reason he's good is because of the sacrifices he's made for white people. Like, I'm sorry, is that really a happy ending? Timmy, put that vape away. Okay, no vaping during story time. And Sally, I see that Zin. Okay, save it for 5th grade. Anyways. Back to the book. So, when Xiaoming finally found a loaf of bread after days and days of searching, he felt relief fill his body, for he knew he did not have to starve any longer.
Yay! A happy ending!
But wait, we're not done. Xiaoming sees a sparkle in the distance. It's Mr. Vermouth's gold watch! His new, third, hotter wife exclaims, "Oh, that caviar was simply not enough to fill me up. I will barely be able to enjoy our 40-year aged wine back at the estate."
Oh my gosh. No.
I know. But Xiaoming, after seeing the distress on the Vermouth's faces, knew he had to do what was right, which was let himself starve to death and let the Vermouths have his loaf of bread so they could probably enjoy their $5,000 wine. And they all lived happily ever after, kind of.
Yay!
Wow,
What a hero. Maybe Chinese people aren't so bad.
And this was just a part of the beginning, right? I can't possibly delve into every use of Yellowface, or this video would be longer than the entire, all of the Dune movies, including the one that's not even out. But I do want to talk about some notable examples, the first batch of them being Yellowface for the use of comedy. In the 1961 film Breakfast at Tiffany's, there is a character named Mr. Yunioshi, who is Audrey Hepburn's upstairs neighbor. The actor portraying this character was Mickey Rooney, and for the role he used a fake tan, taped his eyes back, and wore prosthetic buck teeth. And besides the aesthetics, the actor also performed using a very poorly aged Asian accent. I mean, I'm sure for its time it also wasn't revolutionary.
I protest! That was 2 weeks ago! You cannot go on or keep ringing my bell! You disturb me! You must have a key made!
This character was supposed to be a form of comedic relief, right? And honestly, it's so wildly offensive that it almost does sort of just circle back around into being funny because of how ridiculous it is. It's like, wow, this is really what lights, camera, action was giving us back in the day. I'm going to read an excerpt from the unpublished zine discussing this aspect of the film. Rooney produces a dragged-out mockery of a Japanese accent in this role, becoming what Wall Street Journal columnist Jeff Yang called the godfather of the Ching Chong stereotype. And the impact that you made on middle school me? It was a big one. Thank you for that. Which has endured for decades and conflates many kinds of Asian cultures and languages into one caricature. His walk is also a waddle, which makes him out to be both a temperamental toddler and a brainless fool, clumsily bumping into everything from his studio lights to the paper lantern hanging barely a meter from his pillow. The placement of this cliche object is also completely nonsensical, adding to the depiction of Yunioshi's foreign ways as ridiculous. He clearly serves as a device for comic relief, rendering his Asian presence laughable, subhuman, and a mere irritation to the more important plotline of Holly achieving white middle-class femininity. There has been a long-standing tradition of feminizing Asian men for political purposes by US mass media. The feminization and queering of Chinese immigrant men further justified their exclusion from the American cultural sphere on the ground that their existence threatened American family norms. In the 2000s, European comedian Wendy Van Dijck. You know what? I was gonna Google her name to try and pronounce it correctly. Girl, what do I owe you? You literally did Yellowface. I don't know. Maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong. Whatever. Wendy had a character named Ushi Hirosaki, where she interviewed celebrities as a Japanese woman with poor English. The most popular one probably being her interview with Adele.
Ushi Hirosaki from Tokyo Broadcasting. Okay. And I must tell you, my English, is not so very. It's not so very bad.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And much of this humor depends on taking advantage of cultural differences or the language barrier and things like that. So it makes it easier for misunderstandings or making the celebrity they're interviewing uncomfortable or confused.
Also cooked for James Bond.
Cooked, not cocked. Cooked.
Good.
Cooked.
Cooking.
Don't say that in England, please.
And I think it's also interesting to see other Asian people present with her while she's doing this whole shtick, right? And it's sort of co-signing to the audience like, hey, look, there's a real one is here. I got a real one to my left. They love it. In 2007, Eddie Murphy did Yellowface in the movie Norbit, in which he plays multiple different characters, one of them being Mr. Wong, an old Chinese man who raised him.
And Norbert, when he was just a little boy, had a pee-pee the size of an egg roll. Norbert, you listen to me. You very special to me. I love you like my own child. Like a boy child, not girl child. Wang once have girl child back in Shanghai. When she 2 years old, I trade her for yak.
By today's standards, well, this movie is very offensive to multiple different demographics, right? To Asian people, to dark-skinned black women, to bigger women, right? So at least we're in good company. Media like this from the past few decades is almost a relic, right? Because it really goes to show how the culture was and how popularized shock comedy and, you know, pushing, what's that called? Pushing the edge, edgy comedy and being offensive was really funny, apparently, to a lot of people, and most importantly, greenlit by studios. I think when people look at films from the 1910s, 1930s, it's like, of course it's gonna be racist. Of course it's gonna be racist. When I step outside and it's 90 degrees, I'm gonna sweat. When I put water in the freezer, it turns into ice, right? It's just a fact of the world. But the thing is that I think we forget how long that persisted for. Like I said, this Eddie Murphy movie was from 2007. And it really is interesting to see the contrast from back then versus now, right? Because I know people don't like to hear the excuse that, oh, it was just a different time back then. And that isn't always an excuse because, I mean, obviously now we have the hindsight to know, right from wrong. And sometimes you can only see things in hindsight. So that doesn't make it right. But that also doesn't make it false, right? Because it really was a different time, clearly. And I don't know, sometimes watching things like this, it's almost so wildly offensive that it is funny because it's like, I mean, I don't know. I guess maybe that's what it is when it came out, too. That it's just so wildly offensive and shocking that it is funny, I guess. I don't know. But maybe there is room for recognizing how problematic something is and then periodically letting a laugh slip betwixt your lips because your jaw is hanging open the entire time. Because it's like, literally, what is this? And this is in no way me justifying these actions or saying, bring it back. Bring it back. Nothing like that. But I do think that people nowadays, we say offensive things too. We definitely say offensive things. It's just has a sheen of irony over it. But in our case, it feels more like a mockery of the people who actually feel that way, or we're sort of making fun of ourselves within our own communities. And who knows, maybe that will also age poorly, but I do think that now in this day and age, we have a social awareness where we can sort of pull off that irony. And back then, I'm not so sure how ironic they were being. And I don't think anyone was looking at these performances and thinking, wow, this is the pinnacle of comedy, right? But obviously there was an audience for it. Obviously some people were laughing. And the thing is like, what's the joke? What's the punchline? It's just, ha, you're Asian. Next. Hi. Hey, thank you so much for having me. I've always wanted to be a stand-up comedian and, you're one of the greats. So this is just a really awesome experience let's just get to the jokes because, I didn't do anything. Say something Asian. Say something Asian. Say something Asian. What? Here, wait. Okay, what is this? What is this? Knee? Okay, and then, who, what, where, why, and how? You just said ni hao. I'm sorry, why is that funny? What? Because it's just funny. It's fucking hilarious. It's funny how. You just said ni hao again. You don't even notice. Now, the use of Yellowface was not just reserved for comedy, okay? Sometimes it was used in performances that were supposed to be very grounded and earnest. I want to mention the 1937 film The Good Earth, which you may have heard of. It is a drama about the struggle of Chinese farmers that went on to receive a plethora of critical acclaim. This is a well-known example because Anna May Wong, widely considered to be the first Chinese-American movie star, was denied the lead role for, quote-unquote, not being beautiful enough and not being able to appeal to Western audiences. At that point in time, Anna had been pushing through being typecast to still go ahead and be in movies and make a name for herself. So she had, a plethora of work behind her. But despite her body of work, they ended up giving the role to a white actress who at the time had only been in 2 other motion pictures. And this white actress went on to win an Academy Award for her role as Olan. And Anna's story really resonates with a lot of other Asian actresses, but also just other actors of color who had to, or still having to, go through the struggles of the industry, and it really sheds a light on how diversity is so important. So much so that even Ryan Murphy made this event a storyline in his Netflix show Hollywood. Anna actually screen tested multiple times for the lead role, but seemingly the conclusion was this. So, how do we feel about Anna May Wong as the Chinese lead in a movie about Chinese farmers taking place in China? Too Chinese. Too Chinese! That's exactly what I was thinking. Like, we get it. Even as recent as 2012, we have the use of Yellowface in the film Cloud Atlas, which is a film that spans multiple centuries and looks at reincarnation and how people's souls are bonded throughout time. They used white actors in Yellowface to make them look Asian, and, well, let's just say they weren't really giving that. They were more so giving Uncanny Valley. They were giving Star Trek rejects flicked into the Uncanny Valley. And I think the thing about Cloud Atlas and The Good Earth is that they weren't supposed to be offensive depictions, right? These are dramas. You know, Cloud Atlas is an epic, and The Good Earth is a film about the struggles of Chinese farmers. They wanted these depictions to feel authentic and grounded. So the casting directors involved with these projects, or, anyone in general, might be able to make the argument that, hey, the use of Yellowface maybe at worst can be aesthetically inauthentic, but you can still maintain some sort of integrity within the performance. Because after all, it is the actor's job to put themselves into another person's shoes. And then you obviously don't wear those shoes inside because you're supposed to be Asian. But even if you wanted to make that argument, that doesn't get rid of the history of the practice and how it affected Asian people for decades to come, okay? And I'm talking real Asian people, babe, all right? I don't need eye tape for my eyes to look like this, okay? And even besides the issues of being offensive or reinforcing stereotypes and things like that, even if you write the most complex, earnest, and, real depiction of an Asian person and the Asian experience, if you still end up giving that role to a white person, it means jack shit. Then you're just erasing Asian actors and depleting them of opportunities in an already notoriously difficult industry. For a very, very long time, especially in the beginning of Hollywood, if an Asian person were even lucky enough to get a role, they were either a very minor character or a background role. And he's not just my son. He's our son. Now that was incredible. Every way that you delivered the line, it wasn't how I imagined it when I wrote it, but you somehow made it even better. So, kudos to you. Thank you. Thank you, director. I think you would be absolutely perfect for Chinese staff member number 4. I'm sorry, wait, what? But honestly, now that I'm looking at you, your face is a little asymmetrical, so maybe Chinese staff member number 6. Oh, wait, hang on. I'm sorry. I thought that I was auditioning for the lead role. It's a Chinese role, right? Oh, yes, but we actually have John McWhiteman in mind for that role. You have John McWhiteman in mind for the role of Yu Ming Lee. Yeah, he's great. Anyways, what do you say? Chinese staff member number 6? It will be unpaid, of course. Of course. Now, Yellowface made the Asian race into a caricature, and that feels especially emphasized when it is a white person literally putting on a costume. But even when we get more progressive and start giving these roles to actual Asian people, that just becomes a different hurdle that we've had to get over, right? Typecasting. Then it's just like, well, I still kind of feel like I'm wearing a costume because I am playing a caricature, but the costume in question is God-given, I didn't need to sit in a makeup chair for this. I just had to be in utero. Now, there are a few different types of roles that Asians have been typecast into. This is not all of them, but some examples include the lotus flower, also sometimes called the China doll, which portrays the geisha stereotype where Asian women are very delicate, feminine, and docile. The dragon lady is an Asian woman who is deceitful, cunning, cold, exotic, and sexy, using her attractiveness as a tool. The geeky or unattractive side character or friend, there's a stereotype that Asians are, you know, very nerdy and really only care about grades. And this sort of also makes them exempt from being seen as a romantic partner or being desirable. The kung fu or karate master, the ninja, or, you know, sort of the old wise master. There's obviously a lot of different forms of self-defense or fighting that come from self-offense. Is that a thing? I don't know. That stem from Asia. Obviously, this takes so much skill and talent to be able to be good at, especially, you know, to combine it with acting. There's no denying that, right? And I don't think that this is a bad thing to showcase. And there's lots of different action, combat type films that feature people of different races. This was an archetype that brought in a lot of commercial success in both Asian movies and Western movies, right? And with that being said, one of the few types of roles that Asians were, you know, allowed to play, you know, this was one of them. So for a very long time, Asians were really forced to take one-dimensional characters in order to be a part of the industry. White actors did not only have more opportunity to act in general, but to also take on roles that were complex and allow them to show range and receive critical acclaim. Though some people feel like Hollywood has gone completely woke left and is shoving diversity down our throats, and baby, they're gagging. They're gagging for it in a bad way, right? They're choking more so. Hollywood is still a very white industry, okay? It's only up until recently that we have been seeing this shift. Since 1929, there have been 13,445 nominees for the prestigious Academy Awards. Only 6% were people of color and 17% were women, and less than 2% were women of color. Solely in regards to leading roles, right? Let us be reminded that Michelle Yeoh was the first Asian woman to ever win Best Lead Actress at the Oscars, and that was only in 2023. In regards to Asian men, Ben Kingsley won for Best Actor in 1981, and then of course Ke Huy Quan won for Everything Everywhere All at Once in 2023. There are a lot of Asian actors who actually go on to produce for themselves because they have to create opportunity where there is none. If you look at Dev Patel, the king you are, listen, Dev Patel, I'm a lesbian and also taken, but God, I would love to have a conversation with you. I would love to give you a firm handshake. I really would. He took it upon himself to direct, produce, and star in his own film Monkey Man. In an interview with Entertainment Weekly, he says, "Early on, I could never get access to a role like this. If I was going to feature in an action film, I would be the comedic guy on the side, the tech dude, whatever. But to break the mold, you have to enter it. For me, it was like, okay, I'll show them what we can do." Manny Jacinto also verbalized that for a lot of people of color in the industry, they have had to work extra hard or go out of their way to sort of create opportunities for themselves because the industry doesn't have them, doesn't have a ton of those flying around, let's just say. So basically a lot of actors are standing in front of the Hollywood sign and saying, fuck it, I'll do it myself. Because for a lot of people of color, there probably comes a time in their career where they say, do I accept this role that is a stereotype or slightly offensive? It might hurt my ego, but also I need to put food on the table. Especially during the last few decades where there was just such overtly racist portrayals of not only Asian people, of course, but all people of color. I wonder, those actors, when they get those roles come across their desk, they're probably feeling a little like, well, shit, I guess I have to do this. Okay, I'm just gonna do the slate real quick. Yeah, go ahead. Hi, my name is Amanda Wang. I am 5'6" and located in Santa Monica. Great, okay, what's the first line again? It's me love you long time. Right. Okay. Okay. And what's your line before that? Sorry. The scene starts with me asking, still or sparkling water? Okay. So you ask me, still or sparkling water, and then my response is, me love you long time. Yeah. Great. Awesome. Okay. Okay, let's just do this. Okay, are you ready? Yep. Still or sparkling water? Me love you. No! I'm sorry, I can't do this. I can't do this. So I hope you all enjoyed today's video. Comment down below. Have you ever done Yellowface? Was it fun? I'm just kidding. If you've ever done Yellowface, you should probably just unsubscribe. But yes, little history lesson. Hope you all enjoyed it. And, you know, comment down below other things that you would like me to talk about. You know, sometimes these videos, they're a little more lighthearted, opinion-based. Other times a little more research-based. So I'm putting everything on a plate and I'm saying, let's ask the audience. Hope you guys like it, right? Okay. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. Don't be racist. And if you're gonna be racist, especially don't document it, edit it, and then put it out into a movie, right? Mostly just don't do it at all. Okay. Until next time.